6:03. We'll get rolling. I think we may have Bill. I wasn't sure whether or not he was gonna miss it or not, but we'll see how it goes. Either way, we've got a quorum, so I'm not too worried about it. So the first order of business is consideration of a curb cut permit application for the Calais, which was posted to the shared drive. So hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to review that. It looks fairly straightforward. Looks like this is on Ledge Hill Road. And Ari, you
John and I met with Tom and Lori 10 days ago or so, and looked at both of the curb cuts that they're thinking about. This curb cut is a little further up the road. If you're not familiar with Ledge Hill, it's a very quiet road. There's only 2 other year-round homes up there. And there's judges be plenty of sightline up there.
How steep is it?
How steep? It's quite steep at the beginning part, and then it flattens out.
And it's a dead end road, right? Or I mean, I guess maybe
I believe so, unless there's some.
historically at some, yeah, up here to Vice Ride or the other side of that. Yeah, so site distances seem pretty minimal. Is that a class 4 road or is it a class 3 road?
Class 3.
Class 3. And is this going to be part of so this is an undeveloped parcel, I guess?
Yes.
That's separate from the parcel that has a residence on it, or it's just undeveloped in general? I guess what I'm getting at is this part of a subdivision of land that still needs to happen, or sort of standalone parcel?
Go ahead, Tom or Lori, if you want to speak to that, your plans for subdividing.
Sure. Hi, thank you for reviewing our request for the curb cut. Nice to meet you all. We purchased the 61 acres a month or 2 back. Our plans are on the overwhelming majority of the property to build a single home for my wife and I. And on a small parcel right up by Moscow Woods Road, we would segment off a small parcel for our son to also build a home. We expect this to be a multi-year project, and we're not looking at building anything or any permanent structures this year. We're really just taking our time exploring the land and trying to figure out where everything fits.
Have you had any conversation with the zoning administrator about the building plans or the future building plans, just to kind of?
We have,
assess viability, okay.
Yep.
And did John raise any concerns or issues about the development of those sites?
He did not. We met with him twice, once remotely and then once in person. And both times he didn't indicate any areas of concern.
Okay. So was there any supporting documents that identify where the curb cut's going to be? I see that the sketch area is blank.
There's a supplemental document.
Sorry, I couldn't fit it all in that little area for a sketch.
Oh, no, that's it. Yeah, sorry, no.
They actually did a very nice job.
Yeah, failed to scroll down.
Yep.
Well, that seems pretty reasonable to me. Do any other select board members have any questions for the applicant or Kari?
I don't think so. Let's go forward and. Yeah.
Great. Well, with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the curb cut application. And sign it.
Prove it,
Yeah, approve.
so moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
You got it.
So there you have it. So we'll sign this and date it tonight. So the curb cut application is a little bit different. It's an approval to proceed, but there's still an obligation to have it inspected and signed off on by the road foreman or town administrator after it's been completed. And that's what kind of sets it in place in time, but we will sign it this evening. And get you a copy.
Great. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Look
Yeah, of
forward to
course.
meeting you all in person.
Same, likewise. Cheers.
Take care.
Great, thank you, Carly. So the next item on the agenda is the right-of-way ordinance violation related to Lightning Ridge, which has some documentation that was posted on the shared drive. Everyone's up to speed on that. Looks like Mr. Lilly is present. So with.
And I can confirm that there is no hay bale there.
Okay.
He did move it, so.
Great.
Well, thank you for moving that. I don't think that this warrants much more discussion other than, hopefully you noted that this is a repeat violation, that you'd already received a letter for, and we seem to be establishing a pattern of continuing to add stuff to the right of way. And in the most recent letter, there will not be a warning in the consideration of whether or not we're gonna levy a penalty. And the select board will take up whatever means necessary, I guess, to try to enforce compliance with our right-of-way ordinance. You following what I'm saying, Doug?
Do I understand that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I understand it.
Sure.
I'll go along with you on that, but I understand it. I understand there's all kinds of places in town that are in violation of the ordinance. Maple Corner Store is one goes along. I understand all that. And I noticed you're going around making people take the fence down and move the rocks and, they're not gonna get very happy. They're not. They're not happy with you guys. I'm telling you, they're not. And, I can't afford to make any more enemies. I don't know about you.
you can afford to?
I can't.
Can afford to.
I can't afford to. I don't think you can either, by the way.
Okay. Well, thank you for moving the hay bale.
Just that one bale across from my house, right up tight to the bale. It's not in the town right, it's in the town right away, but it's stupid. Because I got two trees just beyond it that town has killed. And that's the only tree in front of my house. That's still alive. All the rest are dead.
May I, please?
Yeah.
I just want to give the board an opportunity to ask any questions or comment, and then we can open it up to feedback for sure.
Discussion, thank you.
I don't have anything else. Thank you for moving the veil.
Okay. Hey, can you just, did you guys sign in by chance,
No,
for the record? So if you're gonna comment, if you wouldn't mind just signing in or at least stating your name so that we can capture it in the minutes, but.
sure. Mercedes Beyond.
Yep.
From Jack Hill. So I've seen the pictures and I've been to his place. And just as a neighbor, I understand that when the plow needs to go by, it might be in the way, the right way and whatnot. Now, and that's the whole point, trying to, the whole story, trying to protect the trees and the roots and all that. So it's just right on the line. So on the other side of the road, there's still quite a bit of snow that had not been plowed, at least on the pictures that I've seen. But then it seems like the town persistently insists on that side, and it's kind of looking like, from my perspective, I'm not saying that you guys are doing it on purpose, but it's looking like it's being done on purpose. So even though, how many from the center of the road? 25 feet, right? I mean, we could measure and whatnot, I'm pretty sure you've done it hopefully. But if you're gonna do it on one side, I would expect you to do it on the other side as well, and not just leave some snow on one end, so then it's like, oh, look, now there's not enough room passage for traffic because you put the hill bay that might be 2 inches on the road. Just as a side, perspective from a neutral party looking at it, trying to look at it to the point, right? So, cause I've seen that there's discussion and this and that and all this bickering, but I'm trying to help him and help the town, because I know the town has a job, and of course, we all have to abide by the rules and laws, otherwise it would be chaos. But there needs to be more than just fighting and like kids, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna do this to you, or now I'm gonna do this to you and whatnot, right? We personally had experience with the taxes when he was charged extra, but then somebody else we know came 2 days later, late, and did not get charged a fee. So notice that you guys deal with different people different ways, and that does not look good at all. I'm just saying, that's why you don't see me often, you just see me during town meeting. But do I have to start showing up more often? Maybe I do, cause yeah, I mean, just. That's all.
Well, I can say that this has been an exercise in trying to be consistent with the application of the right-of-way ordinance, and the primary priority is being consistent about the things getting placed in the right-of-way without any effort to seek permission in advance, or have that conversation in advance. But you know, I can't.
Like you said, consistent.
And consistent. So Mercedes, I appreciate the input. I don't think that there's much more to discuss on this particular matter. Thank you, Doug, for moving to Hayvale. Yes.
I'm Chairman Cannon. Jordan, you mentioned without asking permission. If Doug were to come and apply for a permit or whatever is required to protect the maple trees, are you suggesting the board would actually be open to that?
I mean, that's a conversation for I think the board to have. There had been earlier comment about finding ways to mark the road edge using stakes or something that would be a breakaway and not a safety, pose a safety hazard. But we would, in having that conversation, we would want to solicit input from other parties that can comment about the safety of those things. So, that I don't want to make any firm commitment, but certainly we want to find a resolution that is reasonable and sustainable, and not just a pattern of hay bales going in first or other obstructions or objects going in the town right of way, and then having to put the town in a reactive position of not having meaningful conversation.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that stretch of lighting bridge has been an issue for years, precedes your tenure.
Sure, yeah.
Other boards have dealt with it in maybe different ways, but I do think a dedicated conversation about the speed, with the road, what's, I live nearby, I walk on that road, that's not wrong. You wanna be wearing your right clothing when you're walking on like the bridge and, I admire a person who takes it into his own hands and creates an issue, and I wish that we could actually have a conversation to resolve it, because it does feel like it's just a kind of, I don't know, a bit of a power struggle over making sure that there's nothing in the right of way, but we're not moving forward in otherwise protecting the health of the trees, addressing speed on Lightning Bridge, that sort of thing, so.
I appreciate that. I think it's important to note, though, that like it goes beyond just kind of a power struggle and trying to, conform. It's also, a need to see a demonstrated ability to engage in that conversation respectfully. And that has been a perpetual issue. And so it ends up becoming kind of a non-starter, because you can't have one party who's trying the best they can to be respectful and equitable in their treatment of the enforcement of the rules, and then another party who isn't showing that same level of mutual respect. So that comes into it as well. I think that's we've discussed that as starting to get outside of the scope of the conversation, and I'd like to move on with the rest of the agenda. So thank you, everyone, for the feedback. Sure.
Is there some type of resource in the the Agency of Natural Resources, to see if there's some type of anything they would know anyone help or assist with in regards to the trees? I mean, I'm just thinking that, I mean, this is not the only location where this is happening. And try to keep the safety and at the same time, trees.
Sure, yeah, I mean, I think, I'm not sure that A&R would be the one, but, I think regional planning, there's a number of entities that have resources on, best practices, maintenance practices, and that sort of thing.
Jordan, I know I already had my turn, so, I apologize for interrupting again, but there was, many years ago, a roads committee that was convened, with members of the select board, townspeople who were interested in roads, and people from the conservation community, and they all came together. JC was involved in that. And for many years, it was a stable approach that balanced the road safety and maintenance with conservation. And that going back to those standards is a place to start. They were approved by the state at the time.
I'm aware of those standards, and they're still in place and have been renewed. We're running into the increasing issue that the guidance on maintenance practices from the state relative to changing environmental impacts, et cetera, are creating points of conflict. But the intention of creating the ordinance advisory committee was to kind of serve as that body again for taking that up. So it's revisiting those with community members, and then also regional planning folks is on our radar, as right now they're working through a few other smaller ordinances before moving on to that one, because it's going to be a topic, as we know, in the community, that it's going to take a lot of your time. So with that, I'd like to close the roadway conversation and appreciate everyone's input. And the next item up on the agenda is our sheriff's department. Welcome. Well, thank you.
Rest that thing.
Appreciate it.
Welcome. Good to see you again. Thanks for coming.
We're here. Mark is at the FBI Academy, so he's not able to be here. He's there for 10 weeks and he'll be back in town sometime in the 1st of July, so.
Does that mean he's departing for the FBI, or do you guys need to find some more employees, or?
It is a more professionalized training
Great.
on a federal level, and that will bring the department in a lot of ways much further forward than it has been. And that they go through a lot of different things, having to do with cyber crimes, et cetera, and where the federal government comes into its full in that part. Today was cyber crimes, that's why I'm mentioning that. There's two different forms. One has to do, we did the contract proposal back in November. All I did is up the first time to give you guys an idea where we are as far as dollars left for the rest of the year through the 1st of July. And then I end up doing figures, obviously, the federal mileage rate went up. I suspect we're going to see that go up again with the price of fuel, because everybody knows.
Yeah.
As far as where that goes, we'll have to see, but kind of did that guideline and still stand depending on where we are, what our opinion is as far as what we need to do to try to deal with some of this, which is the 2 shifts in the summertime, during this heavy time, and I know we've been out here recently and it's been pretty crazy, unfortunately.
The speeding.
The speeding as well as the stop signs at info corners are. It's been noise, unfortunately.
People are not stopping.
It's not even an issue of whether they're stopping. It's just clear people and stuff. No, don't just clearly just pull on it. That's not an issue. Yeah. As far as the speed between here as well as in Coffee Village and on here, it's been crazy. It's in all of them back down, and welcome with you on that, but these two are one of the large ones that we're dealing with, for the speeds as we're looking. 29 as far as, 29 tickets as far as 11 to 20 miles in excess of the speed limit, 22 warnings, and then the 21 to 30 is 9. And that number is up from previous years, but always that's something we have to try to deal with. So
Yeah, I mean, it's 30 miles an hour over the speed limit is.
I can tell you one I just had recently was 67 and the 40 coming into the 25.
Yeah.
Now, and that person being Lincoln Eye to Blue Lace, literally walked into Maple Corner store, no clue there was he's near behind them. Wow. And when they came back out, it was one I was able to address and deal with it.
Wow.
So that's not uncommon, unfortunately. People are oblivious to how fast they're actually traveling. Everybody's got something else on their mind these days, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Have, I mean, we've talked about this quite a bit. And I'm curious whether or not we've kind of established a system for exchanging the speed sign data. I have to ask Kari about it. We were going to try to, I think we were going to appoint Toby or show one of the road crew members how to at least pull the data off and provide it to Kari so that we can,
Grateful.
Yeah. Was gonna do that, and
yeah.
it sounds like we need more information on what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big question is, over the last couple of years, we've increased the budget under the assumption that increased budget is going to afford us some more enforcement capacity and hopefully more enforcement capacity and starts to point us in a better trend. And you know, I don't know that these numbers feel all that much different from the last couple of iterations of updating the report. You know, we're talking about kind of the same volumes.
Correct.
But the same,
And I don't,
I mean, I understand that it's just anecdotal at
we're
this
trying,
point.
to guess what the answer truly is. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because, I can tell you, because I actually, Davis, who is the main patrolman, is actually full-time academy, so I've been filling in for him. And we hired another gentleman on. With that said, I've been doing a lot of the road work and like I said, people are oblivious to this thing. And I don't know the true answer how we're going to address. We're putting up the speed cart in different locations. To start with, it kind of works, but
mhm.
you know, if you guys talking about putting up the signs, all it's gonna do is record data, it's gonna give us data to be able to work with. Because it's not gonna slow traffic down, unfortunately.
No, yeah, I don't think that it alone is expected to slow traffic down.
Years ago, that.
It certainly helps with awareness a little bit, but I think the last time you were in, we were talking about trying to be more vocal as a municipality and sharing what the what the data is that within like front porch forum post, hey, by the way, you know, this is the time frame and these are the rates of speed that we're seeing. And you know, I don't know if it's fair to characterize that as like a public shaming, but you know, I think bringing awareness to the severity of the problem is one part of it. You know, I think that anecdotally, you know, in my own observations, there are going to be the folks, and maybe it's repeat and somewhat more sporadic in like these really extreme cases that aren't pegged at a particular time. But if we're seeing like a downward trend in speed rates, you know, in the commuting hours, like maybe we consider that a modest win. But I think that the more structured we can get in our review of the information and then providing that as a resource to you guys is.
One thing is obviously we have the use of regional planning commission's dates.
Yeah.
The only downfall is that they only put them out for basically a week at a time, if even that now, because the need is so large. And with that said, kind of nice to get a little more than a week, only so that you get the repeat issues and be able to see, okay, this week it came through on Tuesday at this hour, well, next week it came through, it's gotta be the same people.
Yeah.
And being able to go and work that way, and yeah, it works tremendous. Data-driven law enforcement. We started it back in Plainfield quite some time ago, and I was not a firm believer to begin with, but until I saw what it did, it works. And you're able to use the numbers, you're able to see when it's time to do the enforcement, which is the big thing. I don't want to spend money at midnight if there isn't a problem at midnight, right?
Yeah.
That makes no sense in doing that. I want to be able to do the enforcement when the problem's right.
Yes, we've heard you say this before, and we, so, Kari, do you know, have we followed up with, providing the sheriff's department with the data from the sign?
No, we've not made much progress with actually getting the data out of the sign.
Is it Toby?
Signs. Yeah, Toby's back from his vacation, so I'll make that a priority to get that. Yeah, they're just technical challenges.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
they're
we,
persnickety.
the data exists.
It exists, yeah.
I know you guys have mentioned four-wheeler issues. Are we still seeing an issue in regards to that traffic?
I haven't heard anything.
It was a
since then.
significant improvement after we discussed it last year, for the latter half, for the last half of the year. I noticed a few, but I think it's more not the same nature. I would say for now, it's still been kind of chilly. But yeah, we haven't noticed a notable uptick, and I think that's kind of
Snow and,
seen a lot more people towing them, which is nice.
Yep. well, the one family, it was pretty easy. It was a drop in and then, if they happened to dime somebody else out, which
Yeah.
we, I visit with and that was dealt with as
Well, yeah, no, I appreciate your responsiveness to that particular thing. That has been a pretty significant change, and I can't say that that's been a particular issue that anybody's raised. It's really just the speeding and you know, I guess a handful of feedback, bits of feedback about the, you know, the cost of the enforcement and the cost of the penalties, but you know, frankly, it's the only tool that we have right now to try to incite a change or influence a change in the behavior. Second, to maybe trying to be more vocal about the data, just from a municipality standpoint, and just saying like, this is how bad the problem is. And then going from there.
And we continue to do our stuff, obviously on Facebook, et cetera. And
Sure.
we do some of our highway safety stuff. We do press releases in regards to where we are and what we end up getting out of there. We have Buckle Up, which starts next Monday. And some of these areas are the areas that I've scheduled for enforcement. So I'm sure we'll see some activity out of these ways, so.
So these are the proposed numbers for the updated contract that will start in July 1. With the new fiscal year and align with our approved budget. Is that
No, it doesn't align. We budgeted 10,000
okay?
for the year. Their proposal is a little higher than that, so we can discuss that, but.
By all means, if that's where we end up with, I just need to know so I can work numbers around.
Yeah.
We can still do our summer activity if that's what you wish.
Yeah.
And then we can offset the other parts of the year to deal with that. And I'm more than happy to work on those figures.
Yeah. Well, always thank you. We appreciate the service and the conversation and the efforts.
Reach out. by all
Yeah.
means.
Will do. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for the time.
Let's take care.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
it. You got any questions, give us a holler.
We will do. Historic preservation.
Hey there.
How you doing?
I'm pretty well. Tobin Anderson,
Yeah.
Duck Hill Road. I think we can do this pretty quickly.
Sure.
So our big push last year was to create a town audio tour, which we did, and is now available in various different forms. You can download it because we have, signal here, we can drive around and drive around and that kind of thing. So what our feeling was for the next year, our big project is going to be to create a kind of junior version of the tour, which would then work with the third grade curriculum, which is mandated throughout the state as being a local history curriculum. Or there's a local history unit down in the third grade. So we want to create another version of the tour that would actually be specifically targeted at that age group with the assistance of the school, because as it happens, Jared Weiss, the principal of the school, is also on our commission. So that makes it easy to do. We are in a peculiar position. However, we applied for our usual grant. As you know, we are a budget neutral organization. We applied for our usual grant with the Division of Historic Preservation. They, in a sense, gave us the grant, but said, look, they were so heavily doged, that's not their word, but, the federal funds are currently being withheld from the Proms federal funds. So, unfortunately, what they sent out to all of the applicants who who got grants, they said, you notionally have a grant, but do not proceed on any work for it because we don't know that we will actually be able to pay you that grant. So it is, it's the sort of the Elon Musk, chainsaw, effect. So at the moment, we are sort of in a holding pattern, working on this. What I suspect is going to happen is if it appears that federal money does not start to move through the division, we probably will find private donors. It's not a huge amount of money in the grand scheme of things. You just have to hire an audio engineer and a web person. Otherwise, it's all volunteer in any case. So we would be working with a couple of the teachers from the school on this. That's the idea, but it is currently frozen because of just the chaos at the federal level. And the division is constantly now faced with questions of whether promised funds that have been earmarked will actually be dispersed. That's my report. It's a little a little drab, but there we go.
Well, yeah, it's a shame. It's a large scope of work, that adds some nice value to the community, and to see it not be able to come across the finish line is disappointing.
The audio tour that you did last year
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
We keep one.
Thank you.
I know a lot of people. Agree.
That's great.
And this is a great idea for this year.
Yeah, I think it'll be really good. I think we'll make it happen one way or another, but anyway. So Kara, you should know that we probably will not be, the way that it usually works, just for the rest of you, Kara knows this all too well, but is that what they do is essentially the town pays money for the things that have been agreed to, and then the state division reimburses them. But obviously, that has ground rule.
Right.
So,
In many areas.
yeah.
All right, well, just let me know. Anything?
Sure, yeah, that won't be anytime soon, I'm sure, but there we go.
Is there anything else coming up this year, or projects that you guys are working on?
No, that was gonna focus on, I presented to you, I think, was it a year and a half ago or so? And at that time, I was saying, like, I was inviting you, because at that time, there was actually a surplus of money, so I was like, please give us your project,
Yeah.
we'll work on them. But at this point, that's obviously not the case.
That's a shame.
So, yeah, anyway, yeah, this is it, that's it, so there's my report.
Well, thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you guys do, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Very good. So the next item on the agenda, we're running a little bit ahead of schedule. But I think that's okay relative to the rest of the items, so we'll just keep moving forward. Next item up is the public comment period. So just a kind of a reminder to members of the public, this is kind of an open period of registering concerns on or speaking to anything that isn't on the agenda already. So assuming that is the case, then I'd invite folks to raise their hand if you wouldn't mind, just kind of stating your name. And if you hadn't already, if you're going to speak, just make sure that you sign the sign-in sheet so that we can document it for the record. And again, we just want to try to maintain kind of respectfulness and try to keep points concise. And this is an opportunity to raise issues within the purview of the select board so that we can, if we need to, get them scheduled for a future meeting.
This is my first time. Well, am I on the public or am I on the agenda?
You're not on specifically on the agenda. This is the public comment period, so now.
Agenda though.
No, not on the agenda, but we're aware you wanted to make a comment.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
So please.
I am here to talk, first off,
did the Dalys get a permit for the illegal driveway that they put in the property?
So I guess I'll say that we're aware of the complaint that's been registered about both the debris and then also the concerns about the validity of a curb cut. And at this point, the staff and the town health officer have been in contact with the Dalys trying to
Yeah.
work through resolution. And I believe you're still coordinating a review of
cuts tomorrow
the
morning.
curb cut, and that's gonna take place tomorrow morning.
Oh, at their place?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, I wanna speak about you aren't gonna tell me if they get a permit or not, right?
No, it's public record. Yeah, just check back with me at some point. You can check back with me later.
Oh,
Afterward.
okay, basically, I am Harlan Oba. I live at 1456 Dugabrook Road in Calais, Vermont. And there's a driveway that just all of a sudden turned up. I've owned my place for 30+ years. And there was never a driveway on the Daly place until about a year ago. And it came in slow. I've had some medical issues, so, I let them, bring it in because basically I want the soil. It's a legal driveway. If there's no permit, there was never one there in the 30+ years I've owned the place. And, bottom line is, and I want the soil, okay? So I said that. Now, wastewater, just basically leaving pans of wastewater in the driveway, waste oil in the driveway, and letting the rain empty it for years. The driveway is condemned, the soil is condemned, it's a public health hazard, and I would like the state to turn around and drill some soil samples there, because it's condemned soil and the place, it should be condemned. I mean, they're making one heck of an effort now to clean the place, but it's because they want to put another place in another dwelling. And I've got a real problem with that one too. And cow carcasses right next to Dugabrook Road. Probably about 2 or 3 years ago, they buried a carcass right next to the brook. And the beavers had dammed it up, so the water was back further and, Yep, so cow carcass, no, these others don't work. Oh, bingo, yeah, there is one. Ducks and geese just roaming free into the road and on my field across the way. And they need to either corral the geese and ducks. Right now, I love rawhide. Rolling. And I'm gonna be in my car and I'm gonna herd the ducks and geese. Off of my field, and you wanna corral them, because and it's just, the Vita Daily, bottom line is leave oil to get emptied by the rain, and that's happened for years. I heard he doesn't do it anymore, but this is, probably about a year ago, when he started to slide in the illegal driveway, he turned around and stopped dropping oil. Attaboy, Pete.
So, okay, Harlan,
Yeah.
I want to just, I hear that you're feeling really passionate about this.
Oh, yeah.
You're raising it, the importance and,
So,
yeah.
can I come up a little more?
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Yep, that's fine. I just want to make sure that we're, being respectful about these issues and being responsive and responding to things within the purview of the town. So
Yeah.
I'm hearing that
Contaminated
Yep.
soil.
Contaminated, so relative to the contaminated soil, and I think that this would likely be the carcass situation that you raised, that's gonna be under the purview of the state environmental department.
Yeah.
And there's a process for that. We've made contact with the state on what that process would be, and our town health officer
Yep.
has gotten more information about that. She thinks it's important that, just citizens in general know about this process. So
Oh, yeah.
that, if there are concerns, that you can file a complaint with the state. So that would fall out of the purview of the state, and the state recommends that the town not get involved in those so that they can run it through that process.
Oh,
So,
yeah, I thought there was somebody for the state that was gonna be here tonight.
no.
No, okay,
No.
yeah, see, this is my first one, and I'm gonna come to more because, the road commission of the town of Woodbury, which is irrelevant, turns around and lets waste oil pans sit in driveways and.
I hear you, Harlan, I hear you.
Okay, yeah.
So, the curb cut situation, is the next thing that is most relevant to our purview. Is whether or not it is a curb cut, if it's being used for regular access.
You get a problem, I've owned the place for 30 years, there was never a driveway in there, and,
Sure, no, I hear you, I understand, I'm familiar with the curb cut process and need for them, and raising the issue has put it on the town's radar. And so the next step for us is to have a site visit, which sounds like it's already scheduled, with the road foreman and Kari, who's the road commissioner and town administrator.
Yep.
And largely the keeper of our schedule. So we're working through it, and we tentatively have time slated in the next meeting to get a report back on that.
Oh, okay, and then can I get on the, whatever, the speaking, I know this is.
Well,
public
if
talk.
it'll be a standalone agenda item or part of a report, so you'll have an opportunity to speak at that time.
Good, okay, so pretty much, I guess I'm done, I
Okay.
mean, waste oil on the ground, letting Mother Nature empty
Yeah,
it for years.
Hear you.
Illegal driveway, and I want the dirt, I don't want the dirt to go, but I guess we gotta do that, yeah. Okay, hey,
Okay.
thank you, guys.
Thank
and,
you.
Yeah, I mean, I need to learn more of how these things go, because, waste, all you need to do is go in the driveway and smell. The ground is contaminated, and I would like to see the property get condemned. That's my ultimate, but.
That's not within the purview of the select board, but I hear you, and you've raised your concerns, and it just, if you could just be patient as we kind of work through.
Oh, yeah,
what we
no, I
can.
will, I don't know,
That's what we got.
I am so wound up that, when they're getting ready to try to permit a dwelling there, that'll never happen with me.
Well, okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, the bottom line is they've condemned the place by waste oil on the
I
ground.
hear you, all right, yeah, thank you.
Okay, and thank you. I guess, yeah.
Speak to that
Yeah,
as well.
sure, that same,
Stay,
No,
it'd be great if you hear me address your concerns.
oh, yeah, no, bottom line is you turn around and put the leaf driveway in,
So,
so.
so, yeah.
okay, I'm Laura Daly. I own the home.
Yeah,
Discussing. I am here for the purpose of addressing his concerns.
Sure.
I apologize first and foremost to all of you for all of this. This is
Okay.
something.
Yeah.
As far as waste oil goes, we have spoken here recently, and this is the first we've heard of them ever saying anything about this. We don't have a garage where we do a bunch of cars. We have a couple of vehicles of our own that we do oil changes on, not even on a regular basis. So we do not have a bunch of excess oil, for one. If we do, then there's places we can get rid of it. It's not sitting in the driveway.
We had the health officer come over voluntarily, immediately. She said, hey, I'm the health officer, I got a complaint. Great, come over tomorrow. I even had my family and friends over for a cookout, and I made room for her to walk. We walked the whole property. We talked about everything that was on the complaints. She looked at everything. She took pictures. I welcomed her. I introduced her to my family. I have zero issue with the town. We are not trying to hide anything. As far as the driveway goes, the driveway was there for a long time. It was before we ever got there. It didn't quite look as driven on because we've been moving vehicles in and out. We're moving stuff out, trying to get rid of stuff. So yes, there are tire tracks on it, but it's always come down off the road right there. The kids have always rode their four-wheelers down there into the field. They've always rode their dirt bikes right there. It's always been there. So I don't know where this illegal driveway thing is. But I believe very strongly that if you're going to tell us we need a curb cut for that spot in our field, this neighbor has one directly across from it. I actually have video of him sitting there, and he even called it his driveway in the field directly across from the driveway we have. He has another one just down the road, another 50 to 75 feet, where he has tire tracks going in and out. There's a trailer park there where he backed it in. He had loggers logging the property across the road from us. We never complained. We've lived next door to him for 13 years. This is the first time we've had an issue. And actually, because he's not here, it's because of the dwelling. Because it's his former best friend, my husband's father, that we're trying to house till they get old and can't be housed anymore.
Mhm.
And he heard that we were trying to figure out a way to put them up so that they don't have to live in low income housing in the city away from us. And it has switch flipped. This has never happened.
So I thank you for taking the time to come in and speak to the issues and also, this has been on the purview for a week or so, and I just want to kind of express some gratitude for your willingness to work with Catherine, the health officer. It sounds like there's been an effort to participate in finding a resolution and address concerns, and that is much appreciated. I don't want to speak to the curb cut prematurely. There's a site visit scheduled. There's a process for that. It's not particularly complicated. It has more to do with just protecting the town's investment in impacts to the road surface and safe access to the property, right? So I know that this is kind of nuanced, but there's a difference between a driveway and a curb cut, and the curb cut is within our purview. Driveway is a different thing. We'll kind of wait to just hear what the evaluation is from the road foreman and Ari, as road commissioner. We have another meeting next week just because of the weirdness of our scheduling this month. So we'll have an opportunity to have kind of a timely report on what the situation is, what the plan is for kind of addressing issues and concerns. And the town health officer is also scheduled next week to talk about a couple of things. So we'll have her kind of reporting as well. That's kind of the extent of the situation from our perspective. And hear you that there are circumstances that go beyond just the observations. So I'll certainly open it up to those select board members to ask any questions or make any comments.
I think Catherine going out there was, our first step as a town, like, to deal with the issue. It sounds like there's a lot going on, and we'll try and do what we can do as a select board.
I don't have time. I do want to clear one other thing up real quick. When she came out, she said that there was more than one complaint. And it was based on a complaint that was made last year by a different neighbor about Camp Louisville. And we had the zoning administrator, the second the complaint came in, we called the zoning administrator, said, hey, can you come and look at this? He came up, he walked all the way up through the swamp, checked every single inch of the camp, every bit of the complaint. Told everybody, no, this is false complaint, whatever, I'm gonna write a letter to you and the other person and let them know. And then he didn't do it. And Barbara Butler emailed him multiple times over the last year, so have I. He never did it, so that complaint probably looked like it was outstanding in our records.
Well. It's not that formal of a process, so. But I will say that, we've actually recently, in the last couple of weeks, had a conversation about. Setting up a system where we can, at least document when these things come in, what the complaint is, where, what parcel it's related to and who's making the complaint. Not just so that we can track, kind of timely response, but so that we can keep an eye on patterns, but then, there are times when it's important to, in certain circumstances, to differentiate between, well, like what's an official, like written complaint on the record and what's just an issue being raised. So that might be another
Yeah.
column worth putting on that.
I just wanna say, I completely understand concern about misinformation, if that's what it is. I did speak with John, he promised to write the letter. So if it's available by Monday, I'll make sure you see a copy of it.
Yeah.
And we're not saying that our property does not have trash and buildup and debris and junk. We're not saying that. And if we had realized that it was impacting Dave in the way that he says it is now, then it would have been cleaned up a long time ago. It's just circumstances, not excuses, but circumstances happened and we're doing everything we can right now to make it better because we tried to resolve this before it got here.
Yeah.
Because the only complaint we heard was that he was upset about our property. So we were like, well, great, we're gonna clean it up. We were already doing it anyway. So that'll solve it. And then it became this weird oil thing in cow carcasses. We haven't had cows in 4 years. We never buried them down by the river. If you drove a tractor down by the river, you would sink. It would be buried there. Everybody in town would see and know that would not happen. We have buried remains. We have dug remains for coyotes. We have not put anything by the brook.
Thanks for responding to that. It will certainly let you know if there's a need to have a more dedicated conversation around it and add it to an agenda, but for now, we don't want to get too far down into the weeds without giving us the opportunity and the staff the opportunity to kind of collect all the information so that we can keep the facts straight and that sort of thing. So thank you, everyone, for.
And we welcome anything that you guys need from us. Please
Thank you.
keep us posted.
Thanks, Laura.
Pass it over to you guys.
Have a good night. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you all.
Yeah, so I don't think that we should probably have too much more conversation on that. We'll schedule a time to get into that. If we need to, but,
So Catherine will come and we'll have a.
yeah, she's already kind of
Agenda.
put together some recommendation and she's doing it next week. She stopped in at the beginning of this meeting, when she had kind of a conflict with another town and she was already on the schedule. We knew that there was gonna be a number of staff and.
It's sounding,
officers.
we already had Catherine on the schedule
Yeah.
for a check-in. She wants to talk about her community nurse program research. But I'm hearing that this set of issues is gonna be its own agenda item that will include a report from Catherine, will include a report from me.
Yeah.
And any other information we have for you by then.
Yeah, I think it's the reporting on it. I mean, I want to try to keep it concise so that we're not going too far out of the purview of the town.
Yeah,
but,
sure. Yeah, we're gonna be very careful how to frame,
Yeah,
because it's a resident complaint about another resident and
Right.
yeah,
we don't wanna make it the headline,
that's right.
Yeah,
But
we don't even fair,
there's a state element.
and there's a state element.
And we may also wanna reflect on our whole town approach to nuisance type complaints or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, is that? Fair.
Meeting tomorrow, you're looking into like old curb cut applications or.
we've already looked for the dailies, we don't have anything on record for that one. They say it's been there for
Right.
over 13 years they've been. Harlan says something different.
If it's helpful, I found a tool on Google Earth
Oh,
that you can actually set a slider for dates, and you can look at every year.
wow.
And I was looking back at it, and it's visible on the satellite starting in 2019. But there's no, like, you can see tire tracks, but you can't see anything on the satellite before about 2019. Anyway, just my,
Okay.
it's an interesting way to like look back, time lapse.
I have no experience with, evaluating, what would you do if you didn't have a permit for a curb cut that went in?
Yeah.
It could be that we ask them to apply for a permit,
Right.
or maybe it's not an appropriate spot, I haven't evaluated it yet.
And I didn't ask this earlier, but he, was saying, pointing out that he would like the dirt, what side of it?
I don't know what that means.
I'm not really sure what that means, so. It's their property, and my understanding is that the property is below. I don't know, maybe it's referring to the removal of material that's been placed there. I don't know, it doesn't.
I thought I-
I'll
I
ask him the next time I see him, I speak with him a couple times a week.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is a kind of a powwow on housing development topic. So this was a opportunity for reflection, which is now very limited. But it was intended for the select board to kind of have some dialogue around the various guests that we've had over the last few months on this subject, and just kind of work through some dialogue on what we think are appropriate next steps for moving forward through this process, or that is a subject.
Or making a process happen.
Or making a process happen. So, to recap, we've had community members who are particularly passionate about this, who have some thoughts and willingness to apply themselves to the task of exploring what the resources are, identifying what they are, and coming up with recommendations, or at least taking the direction from the select board and what we think are the most viable next steps. We've had CBRPC come in and talk to what funding there is for planning resources, and who am I missing? Why, I just blanked. I had them. I had all three of
The
them.
planning commission, we have.
Right, and planning commission, that, would likely need to be engaged in any kind of review of changes to regulations and land use bylaws. I did some more homework on that just to kind of see what that process would look like. If we were wanting to look at making amendments or modifications to land use regulations for Calais. I was under the impression that there was a little bit more discretion at the select board level and how to work through that process, but the process is actually very, very similar to the town plan process. Essentially a zoning regulation modification, amendments, adoption, et cetera, has to start with the planning commission. They need to generate a recommendation, basically a report on the changes that are proposed. That report then has to have at least one public hearing for comment. Then it needs to go to a handful of entities. It needs to go to the Department of Housing and Economic Development, CBRPC, and a handful of other kind of, and the other adjoining towns as well. And they can make minor modifications, technical modifications if they need to. But then at that point, if they accept it, it goes to the legislative body for review and a hearing, and then after the hearing can be adopted. So the planning commission has a lot of stuff to do. They're still working on planning changes and updates. One of the caveats to that process is that the select board, an individual or a designee can do the report part of it and send it to the planning commission. So that saves them one laborious step as a committee. So that steps them straight up to basically having a hearing. And could be a path that is worth considering if we know that there is a set list of very specific recommendations. We can hear those recommendations. We can encourage another entity or designee to prepare the report for the planning commission to review. But then it still has to go through kind of the checks and warnings and hearing process.
Right, so it was my impression that there were other steps that could be taken without needing zoning ordinance amendment.
Yeah, I think that that's true
So
too.
we don't have to jump to amending ordinances, right? We can, I mean, what David Healy and that group was talking about was, finding people who were and helping them figure out how to build housing within what we've already got, which is near village centers where we don't have restricted zoning. And I thought they had some good energy for trying to make good stuff happen, where we already have in our plan and zoning, said that this is where it should be.
Right, I feel like multiple prongs at the same time could be appropriate, because the zoning changes, are a little onerous and labor intensive and have that prescribed timeline. But I think they're worth having a group look at, whether it's we want to put together a super ad hoc group of maybe a select board member and one or two people on the planning commission and some community members. I know John has a bunch of specific ideas, and it might not be too onerous to put together that packet for the planning commission, but I think at the same time, sort of parallel track, whether it's the same group of people or a different group of people. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that could be done that would be helpful, and the one that comes to mind the most is we've heard mention of this program, and you can get funding for this aspect of a project here. I think it would be helpful to put together a resource, right, and maybe the resource already exists and we just have to find it. But that can go out to so you're thinking about building an ADU for a family member. These are the state programs that might help you do that. Here's where you can, get a low interest loan if it meets this criteria. Just sort of put together a packet of information, pointing people in the right direction. So I think it's daunting. I mean, we've been having conversations about trying to do something on our property, and it's like, you always have to start from scratch unless you have a document that points you in the right direction.
Yeah, and the state has put some effort into those types of resources, going back years now. And they are still very, very relevant. I think that there is kind of a disconnect on like, where do you find these things, and not wanting to like reinvent the wheel if those resources already exist. And so, you know, I think it's worth identifying like what's good, what's the low hanging fruit opportunities for connecting people who have an interest in building auxiliary units, or doing a minor subdivision or a major subdivision. But like, for me, from my perspective, it seems like a walk before you run type situation, and like just getting a handful of people feeling like they have access to the information and resources that may be applicable to them. I think sometimes that even when you do have, hey, here's a state program that you might be eligible for, et cetera, even that is sometimes hard to find a fit for. So the better we can be about making that good, consolidating that information and those resources. And for me, this is getting closer to refining what a charge would be for an ad hoc committee. I think we have, and you know, I it's not necessarily pushing back, Christie, but like, I agree and disagree. I think from the perspective of municipality and the legislative body, I think that that the resources available or actions available to us, aside from saying, hey, we really want people to try harder, is, you know, making a more concerted effort to say, like, we want changes to the land use regulations, mindful ones, you know, and a defined process for it, but like to be on the table. And I wonder if it makes sense to, because I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think a group that is tasked with pulling together resources and programming from the state and handbooks and that sort of thing can also evaluate some of those recommended changes and say, some of these actually we think would make a significant difference, maybe not the full slate of them, and it would be worth in the medium term trying to work through that change in land use regulation to make it easier where it does make sense. And
Yeah, no, I have no disagreement there.
yeah,
But I think my point was, we don't need to start with the zoning amendment. We need to start with some broader thinking about what the priorities are, and where the need is for the
Yeah.
amendment, and what we can do now for changing the
the other part that's like lingering for me is I'm really struggling with the fact that there isn't more specificity coming from like the regional planning groups about like what the recommendations are. Like the regulations from one town to the next are fairly similar. You know, you have some varying degrees in intensity relative to the values of the communities, but for the most part, I mean, we're talking about the same stuff, right? And so it's a little disappointing to hear that like that there isn't a more dedicated effort being placed on saying like, okay, here are like the 5 things if you were going to try to make a change for this one piece. The other part that's really important is that, as I was reading about this over the last week, is that any change to the zoning regulations also needs to be supported with a rationale that comes from the planning documentation, like the town plan. So there needs to be.
We have a town plan that says we want to do 19.
Right, but
I mean,
you still want to make sure that you can check off that box. So like for any of those changes, each one of those changes basically needs to have kind of a corresponding rationale for this is where it's represented in the town plan, that this is our objective and this is why. So we don't want to go through that exercise without making sure that those two elements are connected. And I think Christian from CVRPC did mention that there's a regional planning grant that is usually applied to town plan development, but I didn't see that it was particularly restricted to that, and I kind of wonder if that can be something that if we were gonna task a group with, like giving them a budget or a grant to pursue, to help tackle some of that long, medium-term kind of planning, effort.
Yeah. And we just didn't plan on the farm. Okay, yeah.
No, I'm not saying we modify the plan, but I'm saying that if we can get, if that grant is accessible and usable for bylaw modification, I think it can be used for, map generation and other kind of planning resources, or if we need to engage, someone like the CDRPC specifically to engage in a dedicated process with us for targeting path. Maybe use that.
Well, I guess one of the questions is how much of this thinking planning work is the select board going to do? And how much do we want to accept the offer essentially of, people that live in this town that are saying, we want to be a housing unit. And I would tend to want to give them a fixed broad
Scope of.
scope.
Yeah.
Just please start and bring back some thinking and let us know what you need from the town.
Well, then I can see this goes hand in hand with that, some type of a, concerted public outreach
Yes.
effort. And or even some type of a survey. It's like John has good ideas about what changes might be made in zoning. But it also might be interesting to hear from people like, if you've ever thought about,
Are you
dividing your lot or building an ADU or building another housing unit. What are the things that holds that up, right? There might be lots of people out there who are like, oh, I have a, big garage that's insulated above it, and it never crossed my mind to turn it into an apartment. But I feel like if there's a broader community conversation happening and sort of building, it'd be good if that happened in parallel with any zoning changes we're talking about or any other things we're talking about. Because they can sort of inform each other.
Yeah, so it's like a unified message, this is our focus right now.
Right, it's like if we hear from 5 people who are like, I really wanted to do it 3 years ago, but I couldn't because X, Y, Z, or this was the stumbling block I hit. Then it targets where we're looking at where the stumbling blocks are.
Right, it seems like that could be helpful to the gray,
Yeah,
that's what they're looking for, it's most people.
right, exactly.
And similarly, if we say, go ahead, talk to, people that might be interested in making a minor subdivision and see what they need and see what's holding them up.
Right.
And see, Gus Seelig made the suggestion that, well, one of the things we could do is expand the East Montpelier Fire District, which you
Calais.
tiny little, water utility, but that's the sort of thing that can really jumpstart a little development, by giving people that infrastructure, which we don't have anywhere else.
Again, I think like the incremental wastewater one was another big one. It's hard, I think, to, that's such a large project in scope, and there's no way to really make it turnkey, but I'm kind of a nerd about these things, and I've come across systems and site like development that's like a community septic that can then be tied into a municipality system without it being a complete waste of effort. It is an incremental step towards that, and I regionally don't feel like there's a lot of expertise on anything like that. but you have CVRPC saying like, you know, don't write that off. That's a huge for medium scale development activity, that can be a real needle mover and having resources or citing of those types of things already kind of designated. So if we can circle back to kind of committee formation and charging, kind of a question for me, I guess, and maybe this is something to do a little homework on, would be, is this a standalone ad hoc committee, or do we ask or charge the planning commission to make it a subcommittee, sub ad hoc committee of the planning commission? I want to be careful not to like just put it in the planning commission, because they're wrestling with town plan and it seems hard to manage all of that. But
It's a lot.
it's a lot, and I'm also sensitive to just like creating another committee and
Has Jared weighed in on his thoughts on whether he wants a subcommittee or not?
no, I don't, the question hasn't been asked.
I don't think that specifically, he's certainly aware of the suggestion and I think generally supported, but I don't know if there's a formal position. It sounds to me like potentially it would be good to, you know, polish this up, like, you know, get a little more specific about what the select board would like to see. And then meet with Jared or the planning commission to say, here's what we see needs to happen. We don't want to step on your toes. We want to work together with you, complementary. And see how they respond to that. I could see the committee reporting to either, right? It could be to the select board directly or the planning commission. I do agree that the planning commission is going to have a lot, especially if we ask them to take up zoning regulations after they finish the plan update.
Well, I think the part that you missed was like, while I think that because that is such a structured process, like, it seems like it would make sense to create a dedicated ad hoc committee that, you know, and David Healy are like continue to do the work on engaging input from all of these different entities and being a catch-all to this. And also, as you're going through these various recommendations and programs and kind of coalescing around what could be a recommendation, like take a look at the zoning regulations as well to see where there might be low-hanging fruit opportunities to make amendments and recommendations, so that maybe that's all part of a package.
Okay.
So at least like the evaluation and analysis part, and maybe even the report generation part isn't lumped onto the planning commission. And is done in the context of what I'd say is like more contemporary conversation and dialogue with all of these different planning entities about different solutions. So then I think it comes down to the size of that committee, the sunset period, is it permanent, is it ad hoc? Do we want to get very specific about what the deliverables are? And to create a charge that I think has specific action items, but doesn't necessarily restrict their ability to look at different things and engage feedback from different entities like CVRPC.
Great, yeah, I think being somewhat broad in our chart may afford them more creativity to like, you know, put a lot of energy into the focus area that they have a lot of energy for, you know what I mean, like.
Yeah. You're gonna appoint someone like Gus Seelig to the committee, you might want to give him a lot of room to
Right,
maneuver.
some leash, and yeah.
One other element that I'd like maybe some ideation on before we move on is for some thoughts on the communication element of this. So we talk a lot about like making resources available, finding some space to carve out on the website where we can kind of put these things front and center. might touch on some website stuff a little bit later, but I wonder in the context of some of the modifications and improvements that Meadow has been making, we need to get consensus around like how proactive, how much of a push do we want this, you know, how do we want the communication around this topic to be represented on the website, relative to everything else that we're trying to put on the website and get people engaged around.
I think some of that can come from the committee,
Okay,
but part of the charge can be have some community forums, you know, make, you know, in doing the committee work, the committee needs to collect input from the residents. I like the thing you said earlier about, hey, if anyone out there is trying to do an interview, and what have been your hurdles? Has anyone succeeded? How'd you do it? That kind of, let's collect all this wisdom that's out there. And, you know, I could see having them collect wish lists for different, communities. Maybe the people in cabinet have an idea about what they want to do with, you know, particular junk food something. Maybe the people in East Calais do. We haven't been very, organized about it, just for saying. So let's try and do that.
okay. I have some more thoughts on that, but I think we can, let's keep conversation from now. We're missing, you know, two pieces of important input too. So I'm not sure. I'll be careful about how we add things, I guess, to the next meeting agenda. It's already been kind of warned, but we can maybe revisit it, but
We could,
add some
I
more
think,
time.
especially with Bill and Barbara not here. Why don't I write up a quick summary, run it by you, so we have something to work off of and then continue the discussion next time. Even if it's only 10 minutes, I think some momentum be good to maintain.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, everyone. Policies. So Kari's been working on some policy updates that were posted to the share drive as well. One is a draft fraud prevention policy, which is a lingering recommendation from an audit, I believe.
Yeah, it's on that long list of recommendations from the audit firm. So start with that one.
Yeah, I think so. I think that
That one is very straightforward. I found the template, the model policy on the VLCT website. And just added our details to it. I also reviewed probably a half dozen policies from around the state, just ones that were easy to find online. And almost all of them were identical to the model policy. It's a very basic policy. It's, if you have concerns, here's how they're reported, here's how the select board will respond. And no, you know, negative impact for the reporter is, you know, so.
Yeah. And it applies only to town employees, officers.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's sort of like a whistleblower policy.
It's a whistleblower, yeah.
seemed very straightforward to me. And like a good policy to have on there. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously VLCT product.
Has this already been reviewed by, do we have to have this reviewed by, the town attorney, or do we want it to be reviewed by?
I did not do that step. I can certainly do that now if that make it more comfortable. I asked the auditor to review it, because they reviewed the fund balance policy, and since they recommended this one was so straightforward, but they didn't respond, so
Oh,
if you want to take a little more time, sure. Yeah.
I think that it would be good to wait for any feedback before we sign it. But I don't see any need for changes. I've got no concerns. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The next policy for discussion is the fund balance policy draft. So I'm really grateful and appreciative that we're revisiting this, as it was, pretty substantive dialogue, I think, from town meeting. And this is just kind of a continuous improvement effort of revisiting this particular subject. And
So this was on my list from town meeting, this specifically the target for the unassigned fund balance.
Right.
We knew we wanted to address that. Since then, I had a great conversation with my counterpart in Woodbury, the treasurer, and they had adopted a policy recently. And that led me to the VLCT. So since we adopted our policy, there's been a model put out, and a number of towns have adopted similar policies. And this is in part because the legislature explicitly authorizes this to happen now. It was a little bit of a gray area previously. So there are a number of changes in here beyond just the fund balance target. So, but they're pretty self-explanatory. It's, a requirement to review the target each year. That was a great idea. A requirement to report to the public about it, which was the whole point of bringing it up at town meeting. Yeah, so I, in like the purpose section, that all makes sense to me. So then the target, I feel after having, especially after the town meeting discussion, I feel like the target should be based on the entire budget. Not just, I was following the example that I had seen from Essex in making it about the general government, but I really think that the highway budget is the more salient portion because it's growing faster and it's, anyway. But at some point, it's not like we can self-insure for the entire road system. That's just not how this is gonna work. So we have to draw a line somewhere. It's a little bit arbitrary in a certain sense. So, so looking at the entire budget, I looked at 15% or 20%. 15% is of next year's entire budget is around 350,000. That's actually less than what our current target would call for. 20% seemed a little high to me at 460,000. That just seemed like maybe more than we were comfortable with. But the idea that we're going to review this each year is helpful too. Then I looked at some of the neighbors. I don't know if you saw, Greensboro was in there, Woodbury. Woodbury was actually at the 20% level, and then there was somebody else. I can't remember. But, so everyone seems to be around that area, 15 to 20%, and 15% is about a sixth. That's about 2 months of operating expenses. That, that's not unreasonable. If you were more conservative and, you might want more than that, but it's about finding a balance to your fund balance. So those are my comments.
Comments or questions? Technically, I'm supposed to ask you guys first before I start.
That's what our policy says.
Trying would be appropriate.
One of the issues that came up at town meeting was what are we doing with that money? Where is it sitting? How is it being invested?
Yeah, so that's coming. I started doing some research on what our options are. I'd actually like to bring this up next week if I can get everything. And it would be in conjunction with another policy. We have a policy called financial and banking. I'm actually thinking my recommendation may be to replace that policy with a broader.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so we collect them all in one kind of fund balance and.
You love to marry up policies. You're an aggregator. Well,
It just seems like they're subjects that are so integrally tied to each other that I just get concerned about just not with this particular group, but you just have multiple policies, and unless you link them in the actual document to say go over and read this policy, then it's harder to kind of track how they interact with each other, but.
Anyway,
I don't have a strong opinion.
We'll certainly give that consideration.
Yeah. Okay. So that is not, none of that is what this policy is. This policy is essentially setting the objective, setting the level that we want.
Setting the expectation of the initial. Yeah,
I think the target is really one of the keys. I mean, there's all these definitions. It's actually very somewhat educational. And talking about the value of having some excess fund balance around.
Right.
But the target, I really think is sort of the crux. And it's.
And reporting.
And reporting and yeah, you know, and having a policy that states this as being very intentional about it for the public's benefit, you know. So-
and being structured about the conversation. I mean, for me, I don't know, I could go round and round on like whatever that target's gonna be relative to, you know, what you're trying to plan for, all the unknowns, et cetera, but what's more important is that we have a structure for saying, we're gonna have this conversation, we're gonna report on it, we're gonna say how much it's changed 1 year to the next, and what a great forum town meeting is for having that conversation. So, you know, whether this initial target is 5%, 15%, 20%, it is kind of a moot point to me. It's about like putting an initial flag in the ground and then letting there be a structure for people to give feedback to it. So at least we can come back to it and revisit it and make an adjustment after we've gone through, you know, a financial cycle, to kind of test it. And theoretically, like, I could see where once you're more structured and disciplined around, you know, capital planning, et cetera, then that's where you might see a appetite for reducing that target fund balance amount, because you're already building contingency and financial planning into that. And then it really kind of forces a conversation about like, okay, well, what are really the unforeseen expenses that you're going to be running into? I like the idea of putting it in the perspective, I guess, of like operational expenses for a particular period of time. I wonder if, as we're thinking about like how we present this at town meeting, if it's a percentage of the whole budget, including the highway and general government, is it still worth saying how much of it is contingency planning for, you know, operational expenses for the highway department versus government, or is that too much?
Yeah. It's contingency planning, so it's like, you want it general, right?
Well, I guess my point is that if you're saying that it's contingency planning and should help cover operational expenses, and then you have like a flooding event and you have a fund balance that you've said that you're trying to carry for those extenuating expenses, but then you go out and you use it immediately for buying material that you may not see come back from FEMA, that's going to limit your ability to also, you know, cover operational expenses and salaries, et cetera. So
it feels woefully inadequate.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could, you know, but I think what I got from your point is that, you know, it could be very illustrative to say 350,000 is what it costs to replace that culvert up on Singleton.
You can think of it as 2 months, or you can think of it as a single culvert.
or I guess what I'm saying is both, you know, if we're then, you know, having a conversation about like, okay, times are really uncertain, it needs to be 20%. By the way, here's how much just one significant piece of infrastructure, emergency replacement is with like material and culverts. And then this is like what our, you know, two-month operational expenses would also be, just from like a standard governance standpoint. But I mean,
Yeah, so I guess
it's a great starting point.
Yeah, well, if we are adopting a policy, we have to start with a percent, I guess. We have to like, decide on that. You've got 15, is a good starting point. I agree, it should be of the whole budget, the general plus highway. I mean, I would be happy with 20, but I think in terms of the public conversation and the skepticism around having all this money sitting around, we might want to start with 15 and keep having the conversation. You said 15 is about, turns into the same level of money.
It's a little less than what the current one, I forget what that was, like 3 years.
Yes, I guess the question is, what do we do? I mean, I guess we just modified the tax rate, if.
If we exceed
If we're
the-
exceeding
the
our
target?
initial target, if it looks like we're tracking, to exceed our initial target.
Good problem to have, and then you can, my recommendation will almost always be to consider a one-time expense, like you did with County Road.
Or buying down,
A capital item.
Yeah.
buying down
If you buy down the
high
tax
interest
rate, we
capital.
know what that leads to.
Yeah, right,
Paying off debt or something.
Yeah,
right,
do that, yeah.
paying off high interest debt, et cetera. Okay. Well, I think that's an awesome start. I'm really excited. That
Yeah.
conversation is continuing,
It's a good policy.
great policy, and should we just wait for a clean version of it?
Yeah, and do that, and their
You wanna,
colleagues. Next week.
adopt it prior to the evaluation? of
Either
the
way,
planning
product
commission, or
version, whatever, whatever you want to do.
you can always modify and combine them later, but yeah,
Let's adopt them all and then see if we want to combine them.
okay. That sounds good.
The next
Yeah,
time?
well, let's do it next meeting.
Okay, very good.
And
Well, the other one is the purchasing. This I just want to discuss before I bring
Yeah.
something to you. I found myself in the past 2 weeks in two different, I guess there are trainings from Vermont Emergency Management about getting ready for the summer flooding
Oh,
season.
yeah.
And their first point is to make sure your purchasing policy is where it needs to be, that you know what your purchasing policy says and you follow it. Because it is something that FEMA scrutinizes. I didn't really pick up on this in my meetings with FEMA, but they will deny reimbursements, grants, where even if you complied with federal policy, if you didn't comply with your local.
now, am I remembering correctly that there's a term in there, a condition in there for declaring like an emergency?
There is an emergency provision, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, there is. So keep that in mind, but, I wanted to just check in and see how you felt about these, purchase limits for the different categories of purchases, so there's incidental, minor, major. And this is something that Vermont Emergency Management says, so that a lot of towns are really out of date with their levels because.
Oh, yeah.
Cost inflation.
It was an old policy, I think.
Ours isn't that old, but if you just want to get into this, my take on incidental purchases are up to 5,000, 1,000 for the foreman. These are without prior approval from the select board. I think it would be appropriate to bump that up. Personally, I think, 5,000 doesn't get you that far, with certain things.
So can you give an example, at least? Is this, what kind of purchases are we talking about? Is it stuff that's already budgeted, like?
Yeah, these are things that are already budgeted, but like, truck repairs. I'll talk about this a little later.
Right.
I have a bill for $7,000 for a truck repair.
Okay,
I'm trying to dispute it, but,
yeah,
we didn't think it was gonna cost that much when we took it in, but that's what it ended up being. So, and then minor is 10 to 25. This is with select board approval. or I'm sorry, 5 to 25, the select board approved. And again, I guess, you know, my sense is that, the incidental rate level should be raised. And then the minor, the lower end of the minor would come up. I think 25,000 is appropriate for the cutoff where you have to start getting bids.
So we could make incidental like 8 or 10.
And
Yeah, so something, I think it's, you know, I wanted to check with you about that. The other levels are fine, and there is that exception for emergencies. There's also an exception if there's a sole source, if you judge that there's just not competition out there and you don't wanna, you can't get bids. Hopefully we don't see that too often. But
so you're saying all of this, you can get exempted from it if we declare an emergency?
yeah, that's right. I mean, you have to, it has to be defensible, obviously.
Alright. But FEMA is always gonna be dealing with emergencies.
Yeah. Yeah, in some respect, this is outside, beyond the scope of the
Okay.
emergency management, I think.
Alright, so it's just a question of if, every time. Yeah, what purchases does the select board need to review?
Approve ahead of time.
Right.
The exception of road foreman is that, or the lower amount for the foreman is just that they have to check with you if they go above that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so 1,000, you know, I would bump that up a bit too. It's easy for him to spend $1,000.
Right. Seems like it will be.
Yeah. If you want to think on some more, this is just supposed to be an initial.
I do wanna think on it more, and I know what Bill's input's gonna be. It's just a slippery scale, there's applied, you know, towards things in. For me, it's more about like just the reporting of it. And like trying to delineate between what was an unexpected expense and what isn't, what triggers like a, you know, are we paying attention to a trend? Of potential increases in expenses, like truck repairs, like at what point is that like triggered? And you know, my concern about like bumping up any of these thresholds is that then just like inherently bumps up the point at which a red flag is being, you know, raised, that's being articulated clearly.
Yep.
But I don't necessarily disagree, with,
I mean, you're always seeing the warrants and you're seeing, you know,
yeah,
financial reports monthly in the second half of the year anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, we want to be accountable for sure, but it's just so easy to spend $5,000. That's my only concern. And you know, yeah, and that, not even considering the emergency part.
Have you come up across this in recent memory of like, oh, we're delayed on this project because we don't wanna cross the threshold?
I mean, honestly, I never stopped, like, if there's forward momentum,
If we can do
it seems appropriate.
Well, I am inclined to increase the number. I think 10,000 makes sense to me.
Okay.
Great.
All right, and certainly change your mind or be overruled by others.
Right.
I just wanted to sound it out before, kind of preview it a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's an interesting thing. It's gonna keep going up.
yeah. Seeing how like we're tracking, you know, relative to our like budget, especially in like the road department, like how we're tracking, for our budgeted expenses on repairs,
You see them by vehicle,
right?
largely. That was a good innovation, because I looked back at old statements and they're just lumped in together.
They're just lumped in
You have no
together.
idea what's going on.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so did you have a specific recommendation for the foreman, increase?
No, 2,000 or something like that.
Sure. Let's take a look at what.
All right, so I'll bring it back.
Yeah.
It's a long policy, so plenty to discuss. And one thing about this policy is that I believe the LCT is reviewing it every year because there are constantly shifting guidance, especially with regards to FEMA, I believe.
Mhm.
So.
Okay. So moving on to administrative action items. We have the resignation, the pending resignation of Claire Haskell from the Conservation Commission. We received notice of, and it's kind of a formality. Did anybody have any?
Yeah,
questions?
I don't think anyone should be allowed to resign.
Yeah, me neither. It's
Is
very.
there any reason or discussion or just not able to do it anymore?
I don't think we got any.
We were not offered that.
I received an email from the chair of the committee saying that Claire was stepping down, so that was.
Previously, I brought this up last week, previously, when we've had resignations on this kind of higher category of commission. At least with the DRB, I offered a check-in with the chair and an opportunity to do kind of like an exit check-in with the candidate without trying to be careful not to pry into anybody's personal matters, but also, give folks the opportunity to air any kind of feedback. I wanted to just, I guess, hear if anybody had strong feelings about doing that in this particular case. If anybody wants to reach out to Neil to do that, I think Meadow and I have been talking about maybe at some point, trying to draw a line on like when we're reaching out about resignations and when we are. So it seems crazy to call them exit interviews, but it does seem like an important piece of feedback to acknowledge for some of the bigger committees, with broader scopes of work. Does anybody feel that's important? I just have to.
Yeah, as far as drawing a line, I feel like it wouldn't be wrong to offer the chance to everyone to resign. Just with a little email that says,
Sure.
thanks so much for your service, and please let us know if there's anything we should know.
So that maybe that's a great, just a nice way to follow up. We can obviously accept and acknowledge the resignation, and then I will send an email.
You want to do it?
Yeah, I'm happy to do it.
Okay.
I think that'd be appropriate, and express our gratitude for the service and offer the opportunity to share any feedback if there's any.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for that conversation. I appreciate it. So with that, can I get a motion to accept the resignation of Claire Haskell from the Conservation?
I move to accept her resignation.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. And next is the approval of the minutes from the April 27th select board meeting, posted to the shared drive. We had an opportunity to review those. Any questions, concerns? Looking great as usual. Thank you, Meadow. I don't know how you do it.
I was not here, but I watched the video, so I can approve them.
Oh, nice. Thank you for doing that, Christy. I appreciate that. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes from the April 27th meeting? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Vote to approve board orders, also posted to the share drive, and the select board packet that was warned. Are there any questions about the board orders? A motion to approve and sign the board orders as warned.
Okay.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the sheriff's contract. Do you have to get a copy of the contract in there?
Last year they proposed a contract in excess of what we budgeted. It's just their way of,
Yeah,
it's their sales job, you know?
yeah.
Well, is it because the fiscal year, no, the fiscal year aligns,
Yeah,
so they're just,
they could easily look up what we approved too, but they, you know, they're making a suggestion. It's their record.
Well, I say that we reduce it to align with the budgeted amounts, that was accepted by the voters.
so do we have to specify then? Like, we have to, like, how many controls?
No,
And he would adjust the numbers accordingly.
Yeah,
Based on.
yeah, I'll speak with them about it and we can. Basically, we want that sort of similar format, but prorated to 10,000, right?
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
And heavy emphasis on the summer.
Yes, and then the fall, and then. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, oh, that's interesting, so April and May are the. Lease, oh, every other week, I'm sorry. Never mind, don't write that down now.
Carl, you'll pass along that feedback. I guess they'll send us a revised contract with those numbers in it.
Oh, they just leave a blank
They've
space
got
for
it
us to.
late.
I'm filling it in right now.
Oh, I see. Got it.
Per week.
I'm sorry, I missed the blank.
And I assume they'll, you know, prorate and whatever, do partial, their math here is for exactly 50 shifts.
Okay,
And $10,000 would be 40.77 shifts. But
Good job,
I assume they can figure that
they
out.
can figure that out.
yeah.
And so,
I was gonna leave that blank and just talk with him. That's what we did last year.
basically, yeah, the contract will stand then, because it's their fee, $68 an hour, and it says what they're gonna do, and their mileage going up.
Yeah.
And we just fill in the blank for the amount.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be an interesting point of feedback in the terms of their contract if we wanted to. I mean, this is a discrepancy that's kind of come up before and how the math getting shifted if we want to request
I don't know.
next year to say like this many shifts or this kind of frequency. But I don't know how much they stick to those frequencies. That there's a lot of dialogue around like, oh, you're trying to do it, you know, so that you're. If there's any efficiency to be had, and like we're going by and we're gonna pick up an extra shift because we're in that area and you're not getting paid for mileage, but that could be pretty nuanced.
Right,
Hard to
and I
track
don't,
anyway.
yeah, and their dollar amount per shift is an estimate based
Yeah.
on average mileage, so even if we make the math work exactly right in the contract, there's play in it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, can I get a motion to accept the sheriff's contract as updated to reflect the approved allotment in the
Approved budget,
approved budget?
so moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we have reports. Deegan? Town clerk?
Yeah.
What do I have to report? I don't know. It's been a lot of reappraisal talk in the office lately. So we've been fielding a lot of phone calls and emails and passing on grievance hearing requests to the listers and working with them. Now that dogs have calmed down, Meadow has had some time to learn a little more about what else is going on in the office, which has been cool, so that we can sort of work out what our roles are respectively and what they would like to take on more of, or what projects we can do now that we have the two of us. So that's been an interesting thing to explore, is to sort of look at the long-term projects that I always have on a list somewhere, but don't always have the time to get to. And we're looking at those. Also, the Secretary of State's office is very concerned, I suppose is the correct word, about elections, and just making sure we cross all our T's and dot all our I's going into August and November. They've done a couple trainings, and I'm sure there will be more coming. So I'm convening the BCA to talk about upcoming elections, and just starting to put my election hat back on and think seriously about training volunteers and making sure everyone knows what they're doing on election days. We're getting emails about security and making sure our elections are secure and our workers feel secure. So there's just a lot of prep work that is going on right now.
All right. Thank you, Tegan.
No problem.
Anybody else have any questions for Tegan? No. All right.
Yeah, so a couple things, we are planning to move forward with a private maintenance of the public roadside application, so it'll be very similar to the last year's, but Meadow has done some work to create an online form. We'll have the standard papers available to people with that as well. But if there were no comments about that, I'm planning on publicizing that this week. You have this frustrating issue with the 2019 Western Star. It was in the shop last fall to have its EGR valve or tank replaced. And that was part of, under the extended warranty. It failed again this spring in April, and fallen out of warranty. So I have a bill for nearly $7,000 for this thing that was replaced under warranty and didn't last a year. I spoke with several people at Charlie Boyce, including the warranty administrator, and they said that Freightliner policy is that if a product is replaced as part of a vehicle warranty, they don't provide the parts warranty. Parts warranty is usually a year from installation. I had a conversation with our attorney about that this afternoon. He's looking into it. It's going to get back to me. But frustrated with that.
It's frustrating.
Yeah. What was the other one? Oh, and then there's been some progress on our tax escrow. Remember, on our balance sheet, we have a liability for just under $44,000. It's also an asset. And so it's money that we're holding from a tax sale from way back in 2019 or 2019. And the parties, it's not clear who should receive that money because of the ownership arrangement. There's a owner and there's a life estate interest as well. And the parties are estranged, and we've been waiting for direction. I received a proposed settlement, agreement, that hasn't been signed by both parties. It's coming from one party. They were just asking about, does this structure meet your needs? We gave them some feedback. They've got what they need to go talk to the other party and hopefully reach an agreement so we can settle it. And that's it. I'm gonna head over to the Duger Brook home tomorrow, and I'll report back. And Catherine submitted a written report just before this meeting started, so I'll share that with you tomorrow. That's been somewhat time consuming.
There was also, thank you, sorry, there was also some correspondence from another person concerned about a water line under the George Road.
Yeah, yeah, actually gonna meet with Jordan Hepburn, in the morning just before I go over to Sugar
Okay.
He's interested in, establishing a curb cut. But that's connected to a right of way, use of right of way permit that he was provided almost 2 years ago. They're two separate issues, but they're related.
And there's a suggestion that he needs to post a sign because of sightlines or would.
Yeah, I was a little concerned, I guess, about that he was like preempting the purchase of a sign before there was a curb cut, but it's an is an existing curb
I
cut.
think those are separate issues. I think John's zoning permit called for, I need to get clarity on it, but I understood that to be separate from the curb cut.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, I'll report back on that.
Is he saying ordered it,
yeah,
ready to be picked up? So
yeah,
it says
you would need,
it says you're discussing the installation specific tomorrow, all right, so. Okay.
yeah.
All right.
The town, was there an update about the reappraisal process?
Oh. No, I put some information in there, they did a number of adjustments, something like 65 different adjustments.
Yeah.
Just based on the information they got at the info hearings. I have no idea how many grievances are planned. I've spoken with a couple of people who said they're planning to schedule it.
They would be grieving.
Yeah,
And that's this week or is that next week?
it's actually 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
No, next week.
Next week.
18th to the 20th.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Oh, yeah, there it is.
yeah.
So basically, if somebody didn't get the adjustment they were seeking in the first meeting, that's the escalation step.
Yeah, I thought they had to do the grievance either way, but
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
I didn't think, I've been surprised, because I thought that like the informational one was an opportunity to like raise it and see if there's, like, see if there's been.
Hone your argument so you can actually go.
Yeah, but I thought that you'd still have to go to the grievance one, but whatever, it's their process.
I passed along, like, there's a clear error in your acreage, I was off by 100 acres.
Oh, yeah.
And they said that will need to be grieved.
Oh, my God.
So I'm really surprised that they had 65 changes that they were willing to make based on these information sessions, but.
Did you just get a number, or do you have an idea of what the nature of those changes were? Did they report on what the nature?
No, they asked me for envelopes, stamped envelopes.
Yeah.
I will say, a number of people talked to me about what they had talked to them about, and I heard more about smaller corrections. I have 20 acres, not 25. So I wonder if some of those didn't require grievances, or maybe if they had evidence and surveys and things. I don't know, but I definitely heard from people who said they'd gotten their corrections and they got a letter like saying that the correction had been made.
So corrections to acres, number of bathrooms, square footage, that kind of thing?
That kind of thing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe there's a threshold
Yeah.
for grievances, but.
Okay.
I think more people are grieving. The most common complaint I heard was my land value doesn't make sense. Like, here is what it looks like. Here is what it consists of. There's no way I could sell it and make, whatever number they had been given.
Curious whether or not anybody's heard whether or not that's been a successful dialogue.
I think those all have to go to grievances. I don't think any of those could have been solved in a more casual conversation.
Got it.
But your sense is the two we met with them about won't need to be grieved?
Correct. Yeah, he said he'd make the changes. I didn't receive a confirmation, so I have to check on that.
Yeah.
But he told us,
Right.
I'll just make these
It
changes.
seemed like it.
That was not land, that was insurance value
Right.
versus their appraisal.
Yeah.
And it's specific to exempt properties can use either.
Right.
Well, we want to use the lower one, please.
Right.
And he agreed with that, because he lives in Calais.
Yeah.
Also, it's, you're fair and right.
That was funny. The land one is tough. There, you know, that's a combination of the schedule that they came up with, the land schedule, which is just much, much more expensive than the old schedule.
Yeah.
And did they say what it's based on?
It's based on the last 3 years of land sales in Calais. So it's data driven. And then the other factor that I know of is there's a grade that's assigned to the land.
Right.
There's a what?
A grade that
Like-
I think their scale goes from 0.5 to 2, and I think it's just a multiplier. It's straight, it's straight modifying the value that they assign.
Oh,
So it's significant, 0.5 to 2, 1 being average.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be like the desirability or like the developability of the land, and I remember when I was reading the formula, I was like, wow, it seems, yeah, it seemed like their cutoffs were in odd spots and their multipliers, were assuming a lot, and, you know, there's zoning regulations that have to be like, there's a lot that goes into that. But I'm just kind of curious to see if anyone, works through that dialogue, especially for, like parcels that are landlocked or non-conforming, or, you know, have, you know, unique features that would make them otherwise undevelopable.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to see how that plays out, but
we'll see what.
I don't know how.
Yeah,
privy
we have
will
the
be to that
listers,
information.
we have the listers coming not next meeting, but the meeting after that, and they can hopefully report on the entire process. I don't see any reason why these won't be the basis of our next tax bills. Things are moving along pretty quickly, so.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for all the work and responsiveness and feedback. Thank you, Tegan. Been fun being adjourned.